Okay, well, I am a little video maker today. Today was just the day to do it. You never know when it's going to happen. And then when it does, it's like three or four all in a row. Um, yeah, so this video obviously is my personal share where I'm sharing the different shifts. Excuse me, my eyes. Got something in my eye. Um, the different increasing spiritual shifts, processes, whatever. Anyway, my last video, my last personal share, um, I can't remember what I called it, but something about no self, right? And I was still in kind of the throes of the shock and blah blah blah. That I wasn't quite aware of what had really taken place. And so I'm here to share with you a little bit more. Um, so gosh, I don't even know where to begin. And this is how I roll. I don't prepare anything. And so I'm all over the place. But oh, let's see. What I didn't mention in the other videos, and when I'm talking in that video, and when I'm talking about no self here, um, yeah, let me preface this video because people are going to think no self. Oh, yeah, no self has been a term that has been used for what I now can see from my own experience and what I'm now discovering in written things. People are misusing that term, and I have misused it um, to mean like no self. Hold on here. You can have a no self realization and have it like what happened for me for like 10 years. And people think that this is the end of the journey because you realize that no self, there really is really no self here. There's really no ego, there's no percent, there's nothing here. And people are calling that the no self realization, bing bang, blah blah blah. I'm done with the journey, but there's more, obviously more deepening to that. But and I think 90% of the people who are out there teaching blah 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 who have been around and teaching for even long time have been in this no self-realization state, and it is a very um what I'm going to use the wrong term, but highly acclaimed realization, right? And it feels like it can be the end of the journey, but it's really not the technical no self state. That would be called the unitive state. Or if you're following eh, this gentleman, oh, the author who wrote Liberation, Ave Nurab, I don't know how to say his name, that the no self state is not really the real no self state. Okay. So, what I have realized since the last shift is that I have actually, what I was calling no self realization was really this. I think it's been 8, maybe 10 years of this unitive state, which is, yes, it's self-realization, it's awakening, it's being enlightened to the truth of who you are. And however, I knew because I still had a seeking energy. I was like, I know something is missing, something is still here. And so like I kept going, even though this can feel like the end. And you're just like, okay, it feels like the end of I've realized myself. I know what I am. I know nothing's really here. Nothing really exists. That can feel like the end. And then you kind of spiritually bypass yourself. No, not spiritually. You con console yourself and say, oh, yes, more stuff from the ego is going to keep coming up and it's a deepening process. But really, basically, I've reached the end. And in a way, no, I never really bought into that bullshit because I could feel something still needed to go. And if you've been following me along, you know that every time I'm like, yeah, and I know I want to get rid, there's more stuff I need to get rid of. There's more me I'm working. I could just feel that I need to let go of this. I need to have this death experience. I blah blah blah. I could feel it. And boy, was I right. So, um, yeah, and so I think anyway, what I realize, so oh, yeah, before I get to like you already know what I'm going to say because it's in the title. What has happened here is the unitive state, which includes all this love and bliss and beautiful um, feelings and love. And I know I already said that, but it has a very palpable energy. You can feel your beingness. You can feel your core wound, your egg wash exists, and that's my term, the egg wash, or your deep wound, your core wound, this feeling that's been with you the whole journey, that kind of like you could feel your wound, but then opposite of that, you can feel your gifts that come out of the wound. You could just feel your energetic beingness. You have the ability to go within and feel yourself. You know, that's all part of the unitive state. And as well as people can feel and receive from you that transmission. You have all this conscious beingness energy, powerful energy coming in, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Unitive state, not the true no self state. And that can last, like I said, for years. And I think for a lot of people out there, it may last a lifetime. But then there's more. And this has blown my mind. So, what I didn't say about the prior to this shift happening, what was happening is I once again became very aware, like I was very aware of all the emotional and mental patterns and images and identifications that I was attached to. And boy, cleared so much of that out. And right. And in the unitive state, which people also call the no self state, mistakenly, although you do recognize there's a no self there. Um, it's the ego that begins to fall away. And uh, um, when big chunks of the ego drop away, which is what happened to me, people say, oh, something is not here anymore. That is a definitive feeling of something going away, that the ego can go away. You can feel aspects of that and feel a lightness, like something's gone. Yeah, it's palpable. You don't feel something in your energetic field. And that gets confused because it's a hallmark of the other shift where the self falls away. So there's same kind of feelings in both of these shifts, but over here in the unitive state, it's more of the ego falling away. Sorry, I didn't realize I was get into this in this video. Why am I telling you this? Anyway, so prior to the shift of the self falling away, the self falling away, like I'm still in shock, like I'm testing it all. But it's really at this point undeniable after several weeks of consistency. So I was recognizing I had like the final aha. What is blocking me from feeling right? This unitive state, this quote unquote no self state that I've been in, this I am beingness state, something doesn't feel right. I still feel like there's a me here. There's something blocking me. And what I discovered, like I was so shocked. It's like, oh my God, I'm still attached to the body. I have an attachment to the body, and because I have, I don't want to say illnesses, but I have quite physical challenges. And I realize, oh my God, I have been so identified with these illnesses and trying to get better and blah, blah, blah. So I went into that mode of just like, okay, I surrender to it, whatever, and started active, I just had a conscious awareness of where my stuckness was. And then, like within days or a week or whatever, right before I was falling asleep for like 3 days in a row, I would close my eyes, and that in between state, I started getting an image of myself, and it was like dissolving and like an eraser. It would like wake me up in a little bit of like a fear. I was like, oh my shit, I'm dissolving. And that happened for 3 days in a row, dissolving, dissolving, dissolving. And it was just coming out of the blue. I didn't know what was happening. I just, anyway. But that, those two things pre were ahead of the shift. And the shift is the self has fallen away. And how do you explain that to somebody? How do you explain someone's self has fallen away? Let me just look at my notes because I do have a couple of notes here. When the self falls away, here are some of the things I experience. So I did have that like precog thing of witnessing or getting a message that the self was beginning to dissolve. When it happened, or in several days afterwards, um, sorry, my mind is so empty. Emptiness as a result. Um, you just you become you the realization that you have that when self drops away is how in this quote unquote other no self unitive state, how actually you were still separated from God. You were still separated by the mere fact that you were identified with the emptiness, the absence, the what I would say non-existence of life. Like you were like, yes, I'm here, I'm a human being doing stuff, but my identification now is with non-existence, the absence of everything. And you feel a real sense of I am. There is this void, this unmanifest that is an I that has become an I am here, but there's still a separation. And even in the words that you use and feel, I am. I in Hebrew is the number 10, and it means manifestation of God. And then you have a second word, the amness, which represents manifest manifestation of God in consciousness. But you have two, they're separated. So it indicates right there, if you're feeling your I amness, there's still, for me, the words tell you everything you need to know, that there's still an I that's identified and an amness. There's still a subtle division, a subtle separation between you and God. And yes, you can still recognize that there's really no self, but there's still an identification. Do you hear what I'm saying? I know you do. Anyway, so the moment I realized that, like, oh fuck, I'm feeling it. Sorry. I could, but I'm not really feeling it. It's like um things that I was seeing, looking in the mirror when I was focusing on things started to dissolve. And I consciously, well, prior to seeing things dissolve, when I realized, holy shit, right, I have completely identified with non-existence, which creates an existence of an I. Anyway, so I consciously brought these words are not accurate, but it's just how I explain it, was bringing or feeling the non-existence into like and merging it with my body because I was attached to the body and I was like, no, I'm willing to let the body go. And it just, and when those two merged, non-existence with existence, and I kind of came out of it and I was looking around and things started dissolving. Like you can look at something and if you focus long enough, they start dissolving. And I even looked in the mirror and things were dissolving. And that's one of the key hallmarks of the beginning of the self falling away. Um, that's what Bernadette Roberts, who wrote The Experience of No Self and other books, hard reads, but this is one of the key hallmarks. This is what Ave, of the author of Liberation, talks about. It's also what Angelo Delulu. Anyway, he's a spiritual teacher. He's definitely had the self fall away, which I can now recognize in how they're talking. Um, as well as Suzanne Marie, of course, and Adyashanti. And I don't know all the other teachers, but there are so many other teachers that now I can sit back and go, oh, wait, you're you're in the unitive state. There's something. Anyway, so dissolving things happened, which are one of the signs. And also, and I didn't. So what sorry, I am all over the place. So if you had in Bernadette Roberts' book, which I had been reading and read many years ago, and um, I was reading when I was feeling and realized no self. I went to this book and I highlighted all the places where I was like, yes, that's what I'm experiencing. Yes, yes, yes. I'm in no self. Yes. And indeed I was. But when I went to the book this time, I opened to the place where I left off. And it's very funny, all the places that I did not highlight that now I was reading where they didn't make sense before, and which can fool people to thinking they're in a real no self and you know it was the pieces that I didn't highlight that now I could highlight and go, oh my God, that explains that. And it's the things dissolving. It is, there was a great weightlessness, like more profound than, oh, something is no longer here from the when ego aspects drop away, right? This was, despite the fact that I have gained enough weight, I was feeling like I had lost 20 pounds or so. I was feeling so light in my body, while at the same time, simultaneously, I was I had started walking again, and I'm a fast walker. I'm like, doo, 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 I just like to get on with it. But for like 3 days, as I was trying to walk, I was walking so slow and deliberately. And while I was feeling this lightness, I was feeling as if I was like pushing through water or something. It was a very strange, I can't say it was a heavy feeling, but slow. And then I read it in um, Robert's book, Bernadette's book, and she was saying, this is a dimensional shift. I really think it's more of a density shift within a dimension. Could be a dimensional shift, doesn't matter. Words don't matter. But I think that you actually experience like a dimensional shift when the self falls away. Okay. So there's this immense weightlessness, right? Something is gone. You feel much lighter, like you've never felt before. Things dissolving. And the biggest indicator that the self has fallen away is I realized when I read, she goes, and you no longer have the ability to reflect back on yourself. Your reflexive consciousness is gone. And I was like, holy shit, that's I can't. For the life of me, I cannot turn inwards. I can't find. I no longer have an inner state. It's like everything, okay, I don't want to go off on that tangent. So I no longer have the ability, consciousness no longer reflects back on itself, thinks about itself, and it, yeah, I no longer have that reflexive ability. And also, what I realized, I don't have the ability to reflect, to to think. Not think is not the right word. I have memories, but it's like past and future. I can't explain it to you, but I was unable to get past and future. And it's all right now, right here, right now. And what I realized through reading, and I'm probably not going to say it, but the the ego self is different from the self. The ego self, I would say, is a component or an what is the self? Let's just start with that. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to butcher this. This is just my feeling, and maybe Bernadette doesn't explain it really. Anyway, what I feel like the self is and what has gone away is my individual, me individual consciousness that has been running this ship the whole time. And that consciousness is fueled by feeling and thinking, the feeling and thinking apparatus, or thought, mind, feeling apparatus. Not that the mind goes away, not that thinking stops, but it's this consciousness that's your individual consciousness that says there's a me here and an I here, and it's a me, and it has the ability to turn inwards because there's like this structure of me-ness, beingness. This is where you feel your beingness and you have access to this energy that you are, this consciousness, and you can get, and this is that individual circulating consciousness that is like kind of keeping you separate from God, your I identity, me, my possession of consciousness. It's a possessive feeling, energy, losing my train of thought, where that's your consciousness that is able to reflect back on itself and discover itself. And what I discovered and what Bernadette says and everybody else says is that, which is kind of a joke, that within all this, all your spiritual journeys and your feelings of love and bliss and God and all these experiences of God have only been coming from your own being. This is why Bernadette says, and I have also felt it killed God for me. The, there's um there's no more experience, there's no feelings, there's none of this energy. I don't know how to explain it. I know I'm making this a really long video, but that's your own consciousness, individualized consciousness, manufacturing experiences of God based on your makeup. And it's raw, and it has all these dichotomous energies. It has the feelings of God, feelings without God, my my deep wound, my egg wash, and then my gifts. And it's all this polarity feeling energy that creates the me. But when, and I don't know what through grace, whatever, however it happens, and it's the whole journey. It's seeking itself. It's seeking itself, and it's trying to find God, and it's reflecting backwards, going inwards, and it's finding an inwards. When that falls away, it's like, and what's left is now what's left is God. Emptiness has merged, or non-existent, what absence has merged with the manifest, and there simply is an isness. It simply is, without barriers of any kind of individual consciousness playing the mediator between you and God. And what is removed about God is this feeling of love and bliss, all those transient, changeable energies are gone, and you're just left with an empty fullness, unchanging, static, I don't know, uh, feeling. And for me, what it feels like is, for the first time in my life, I feel right. I feel correct. Now I want to kind of cry because this when the self falls away does not mean that you do not experience, and experience is the wrong word, but whatever. Um, you don't feel feelings, experience feelings. You certainly, in fact, you can feel them more. But I'll tell you what happens is, sure, things will come up, but they're like, and I witness this, things come up and they go, uh, uh. Like there's no, I'm telling you, uh, like there's nothing going on. And yeah, I guess this is the peace that they talk about. I thought I had peace before, but this is something completely different. It's unchanging. Um, I don't think about tomorrow. I don't think of none of those things. It's all happening right here, right now, and everything just is. And I have not, for weeks now, I have not had my core wound come visit me. Nothing has come up, which it had been coming up for like consistently. Nothing's come up. Um, I'm probably not explaining this well, and I'm making this video much longer than it should be. But this is a huge topic, and but it is the greatest feeling, non-feeling thing ever. I'm sure I'll have some crashes coming. I don't know. But you can absolutely, oh, the self, the falling away of the self is a real thing. And no one would notice a change in you. It doesn't, like, it's not gonna change you. It's not gonna make you um more godlike. It's gonna make you just a regular old human. But it's your world that changes dramatically. Oh, I don't even know how to explain it. But anyway, let me make sure. I think those are some of the signs. you lose your interior world. I have no ability to inner reflect. In fact, I even find it hard to even close. Oh, and like how I see. That's it. That was a big thing for me. Like my seeing changed. Don't know how to explain this, but before I could, it's like my seeing was from the head out, and my seeing now is here in the field and not what I perceived as in the body, in the head before. And that had happened in the other no self unitive state. All these things, all parts of these experiences were coming in, and I didn't recognize, but the self was still there. You can have all of these experiences and realizations. They don't settle until the self falls away. Yeah, so I'm here, like, and if I start the process of trying to force myself to look inwards, there's nothing there. There's no inner world. There's nothing, and everything begins to dissolve. So, yeah, no self is different from no self unitive state, and you can live without a self. And actually, it's much better. Okay, sorry for making this so long. Okay, bye.